You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Monday, the 8th of July, 2013. Church of England must accept gay rights. Immigrants create overcrowding and fuel tensions. Betrayal of my friend the hero. It could be just the tip of the iceberg. Terrorist threat level in Netherlands remains substantial. Germany, commercials to be broadcast directly into consumers' heads. Egyptian army kills at least 10 supporters of President Morsi. Boko Haram Islamists killed 42 at boarding school. Thought for the day, a threat to our future? And finally, do you see that Tigger now? UK News. Church of England must accept gay rights. The Archbishop of Canterbury yesterday warned leaders of the Church of England that they must learn to accept the sexual revolution over gay rights. The Most Reverend Justin Welby said there is hostility to the churches because of their opposition to gay rights and same-sex marriage, adding that some of the criticism was uncomfortably close to the bone. In the Archbishop's first major speech to the Church's Parliament, the General Synod, he promised a new campaign to stamp out anti-gay bullying in more than 5,000 church schools. Immigrants create overcrowding and fuel tensions. Asylum seekers, refugees and low-skilled immigrants are creating overcrowding, fuelling community tensions and putting pressure on the NHS, a government report has found. Home Office researchers have assessed for the first time the ground-level impact of immigration on British communities by conducting a survey of local authorities and service providers. They found that immigrants were likely to lead to longer waiting times at GP surgeries, to be involved in antisocial behaviour and create pest control issues because of overcrowding. Mark Harper, the Immigration Minister, said, "This report highlights the significant impact high levels of migration have had on UK communities. It emphasises the importance of protecting our public services and taking a robust approach against those who come here to exploit our welfare system. While we have always recognised and believed in the benefits of immigration, uncontrolled immigration causes a number of problems for the United Kingdom." World at 8 states he's got to be slightly underestimating this problem. Betrayal of my friend the hero. Richard Pendlebury in the Daily Mail writes how the army has turned its back on the suffering of one of its bravest men after he was nearly killed by a Taliban bomb. Stuart Hill suffered a horrific head injury after the Taliban bomb went off. He was treated at the renowned Defence Medical Rehabilitation Centre at Headley Court in Surrey. In the 5.5 months after he first left Headley Court, Hill did not receive a single care visit from his unit. Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Hill hands me the classified casualty list for the Light Dragoons battle group in the Babaji area of Afghanistan between 4th and the 8th of July 2009. The numbers are staggering for a low-intensity war. 66 names ranging from battlefield evacuations for heat exhaustion to KIA, which is killed in action. Third on the list is Hill's own name. Beside it is the acronym WIA, Wounded in Action. Then come the more doom-laden specifics: head injury, shrapnel on brain. Hill came within a millimetre or two of joining those KIAs on the bloodiest day of what remains the biggest British ground offensive of our soon-to-be-ended Afghan adventure. He led the infantry assault. I know because I was there, covering the war for the Mail, only a field away when a soldier next to Hill stepped on a huge IED, improvised explosive device, and, by doing so, effectively wiped out the HQ of the British spearhead. Hill, the leader of his supporting armoured unit, his company sergeant major, the SAS forward air controller and several other soldiers were either killed or incapacitated in the instant. The military censor didn't allow me to report that at the time, operationally too damaging, I was told. Hill is the most senior Afghan war neurological casualty to have been treated at the renowned Defence Medical Rehabilitation Centre at Headley Court in Surrey. Stuart Hill is a remarkable man, but his life has been turned upside down. When he joined the army, he accepted there was possibility of serious injury or death in the line of duty. What he did not expect, though, was what he alleges to have happened: abandonment, at the time of his greatest need. The facts that are accepted by the Ministry of Defence are shaming enough. In the 5.5 months after he first left Headley Court, Hill did not receive a single care visit from his unit. According to regulations, they should have been fortnightly. World Today says, I would suggest you look up and read the entire article on the treatment or non-treatment of Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Hill. His treatment is a disgrace to our serving personnel. It could just be the tip of the iceberg. More celebrities could be arrested and charged with historic sex abuse offences, one of Britain's top prosecutors has hinted. Nazir Afzal, Chief Crown Prosecutor of the North West, supervised the case against former It's a Knockout presenter Stuart Hall, aged 83. He has also recently approved the charging of Coronation Street stars Bill Roache and Michael Lavelle, who both face upcoming trials over alleged child abuse. Lavelle, 48, denies 19 sex offences with a child, while Roache, 81, denies child sex charges relating to 5 alleged victims in the 1960s. But Mr Afzal acknowledged these cases could just be the tip of the iceberg. He said, I don't know how big the iceberg is, but what I do know is that in the last year I've dealt with more historical abuse cases than I've ever dealt with in my life. I think this is true of us as an organisation nationally. Yes, there will be more cases and I have no qualms about it, and neither am I ashamed of it. Mr Afzal, who also oversaw the landmark prosecution of the Rochdale sex gang, dismissed claims by critics that the pursuit of historic sex abuse cases has become a witch hunt. He insisted such vile behaviour cannot simply be judged as being from another time. World Today says, let us hope that Afzal uses this energy to pursue the hundreds of Muslim rapes dating back to the 60s and indeed maybe pursue the murder of 2 white children in Blackpool while he's at it. European news. Terrorist threat level in Netherlands remains substantial. The level of threat in the Netherlands continues to be substantial. This means that there is a real chance of an attack against the Netherlands, the National Coordinator for Security and Counter-Terrorism announced on Monday. The main international threat with potential consequences for the Netherlands at the present time is based on the situation in Syria. What is relevant to the potential threat for the Netherlands is the magnetic attraction of radicalised young men and the involvement of jihadist networks in Syria. The other hotbeds which hold potential consequences for the Netherlands include Mali, Yemen, Somalia, Nigeria and Afghanistan. In addition to this, the NCTB says left-wing extremists in the Netherlands pose a threat. There appears to be a visible hardening of attitude amongst the extremist section of the right to Asylum movement. The threat based on jihadists travelling to Syria and their possible return to the Netherlands remains one of the most important elements of the current view of potential threat. Although not all returning jihadists pose this threat, care and attention must be given to the fact that such people may return not only as radicalists but also in a traumatised state and with a strong potential for committing violent attacks. Germany, commercials to be broadcast directly into consumers' heads. Suddenly a voice inside their head is talking to them. A company in Germany has developed technology that will allow commercials and other announcements to be broadcast directly into train passengers' heads when they lean against the window. Tired commuters often rest their heads against windows. Suddenly a voice inside their head is talking to them. No one else can hear this message, states the video for the campaign launched by Sky Deutschland in association with ad agency BBDO Germany. The proposal involves using bone conduction technology, which is used in hearing aids, headphones and Google's Glass headset, to pass round to the inner ear via vibrations through the skull, reports the Telegraph. Neither company addressed the possibility that tired commuters who rest their head against the window may want to sleep and not be bombarded with annoying commercials. World Today states, who pays these people to invent crap like this? They should have better things to do. It's all money, sodding money in the end. World News. Egyptian army kills at least 10 supporters of President Morsi. Social networking sites and mosques are being used to rally support for the democratically elected President Mohamed Morsi, who has been put under house arrest. At least 10 people are being killed today as tens of thousands of former President Mohamed Morsi's supporters tried to march towards the military barracks in Cairo, where he is being held by the military that overthrew him. Nighttime clashes raged with stone throwing, firecrackers and gunfire, and military armoured vehicles raced across a Nile River bridge in a counter-assault on Morsi's supporters. Morsi supporters demonstrated in cities across the country on Friday on what his Muslim Brotherhood called a Friday of Rage against what they describe as a military coup that toppled Egypt's first elected leader a year after he took office. Thousands of Islamists also took to the streets of Alexandria and Asyut to protest against the army's ouster of Morsi and reject a planned interim government backed by their liberal opponents. In the Suez city of Ismailia, soldiers fired into the air as Morsi supporters tried to break into the governor's office. The Islamists retreated and there were no casualties, security sources said. "Down, down with military rule," they chanted. "We call for jihad in the whole country." Hosni Mubarak and previous authoritarian regimes banned the group, and after his fall the newly legalised Brotherhood shot to power in elections, with veteran member Mr Morsi becoming the country's first freely elected president. Nigeria massacre. Boko Haram Islamists kill 42 at boarding school in Yobe State. All secondary schools in the state closed until September after 3 deadly attacks in recent weeks. Nigeria has ordered the closure of all secondary schools in Yobe State after Islamic extremists massacred 42 people at a boarding school in the region. Following the gun and bomb attack which occurred on Saturday morning in the Mamudo district, Yobe State Governor Ibrahim Gadaim directed that all secondary schools in the state be closed down from Monday the 8th of July 2013 until a new academic session begins in September, according to a government statement. The massacre is the 3rd attack on a school in northern eastern Nigeria in recent weeks and the 2nd to occur in Yobe State. During the assault, Boko Haram Islamists marched students and staff into a dormitory, throwing explosive devices into the room with them. They then opened fire on the building and set it alight. It's believed many of the victims had been sleeping as the Islamists approached the school, with the killing itself starting at around 5:30 am. Boko Haram, whose name roughly translates as Western education is a sin, has repeatedly attacked schools in the largely Islamic states of northern Nigeria. Violence linked to the group has left over 3,600 people dead since 2009, including killings by security forces, which have come under criticism for alleged abuses. Boko Haram has drawn the scrutiny of Western nations, fearing links with outside extremist groups such as Al-Qaeda's North African branch, known as Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. Thought for the day: a threat to our future? As well as ranting, raving and devious Islamists in our country, there is another source of concern for us Brits, and that is the decline of family life, and what is worse is not only the total acceptability of it in our lifetime and those of our children, but the methods various governments have used against us as a people to ensure that this comes to pass. There's been a terrible toll in the results of making divorce easier, abortions easier, and marriages, for some, easier, and not so much of a human outcome of a spiritual or religious design, but a fashion and financial statement to all. We are, my friends, either in Sodom and Gomorrah or the Roman Empire at the end of its run, and although never a Bible basher, I'm sure you can see the resemblance in the giving the people what it wants brigade instead of what it needs. Children who are caught in the middle of family breakups are more likely to feel unfulfilled, be violent and unhappy, and this is true. Divorce can happen for many reasons, and many, like mine, were unavoidable, because it was the men who made the final parting shots. They just didn't want to stay, and frankly I was very young in the first case and simply didn't realise the impact that even the presence of a non-caring father would have made. Without going into boring details, yes, my children would have benefited from a good father or a good stepfather, neither of which they had. Without aggravating the women's libbers who state one good parent is better than 2 bad ones or 2 unhappy ones, yes, they may well be right, but I would challenge a saint to cope with a bereavement like the loss of a partner, home and a way of life and still think that that is the right thing to happen. It ain't. You just have to function, and in many ways that is what many women of my generation had to do, just function. Unlike today's middle-class women who may have careers, ex-husbands with a bit of dosh, or simply the fact they have had their children looked after financially, and they are being fashionable in pursuing their lives, my co-divorcees came about in a time when being divorced was not fashionable. It was strange and pitiable, and often we were first in the family to go through it. I maintain that one woman cannot bring up several children satisfactorily without a father figure. I'm sorry, but that is true. The one problem I had was not that my children were difficult, they weren't. I was. I had to work full time, and without sounding like a complete prat, I was tired, and I overcompensated for the lack of a man in their lives. My first husband and father of my first 2 children didn't want to see them at all, but neither did his family. which cancelled out weekends away, holidays and presents from that side. He paid, but the amount set in 1970 hardly covered anything in the ensuing 18 years. And ever hopeful, I remarried after 4 years, which ended after 10 years when our son was 7, and his father died soon after. In the coming years I can only say I wish I knew then what I know now. Giving in to your children because you're afraid of losing them or just too knackered to think results in usually what you fear, and the only stability came when my youngest was 18 and I remarried for the 3rd time, which was too late for my eldest children. I'm not suggesting a woman stay with a wife beater or a fellow with similar or worse enduring qualities, but a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, and parents should both stand by their children, in my book. People divorce now for reasons not thought of 100 years ago, when women couldn't vote, had no money, no status within marriage and relied heavily on husbands for all their needs. Those times were not idyllic. But they bred children who went on to invent great things, fight wars, make money, breed yet more children and make England great. Now we go mad if a Scots wins sodding Wimbledon. There was a good article written in the Mail at the weekend by a Selina Gray, a girl of West Indian descent who grew up in the deprived area of Bermondsey, South London, and she is absolutely right. I cannot speak for girls who grew up in those areas, but who are now presenting a huge problem socially and educationally with their offspring. I was lucky. I had a mother who cared and no ghastly childhood to run from. But these girls often do. They often hail from fatherless families and think that this is the normal way to conceive a child and bring it up after a fashion. The state makes it easy to give these girls flats and benefits, all the while they're producing a child after child by many fathers from mixed race backgrounds who flee the coop immediately, even if there isn't a coop to flee. These girls and this bad social structure are given all the help available, whilst women who are the victims of divorce or widowhood are given very little. Even sympathy, but are lumped into the single parent group with a bunch of feckless and promiscuous teenagers. Cameron seems to want to increase the number of frankly illegitimate multicolour births whilst penalising married couples. He carries this to the nth degree when he slaps penalties on married girls or women who want to stay home and bring up their children, which is commendable, seeing as how we're always told now that being at home is a drag and even your own babies are a bore mantra. Cameron is encouraging social breakdown at the huge financial cost to us of £220 billion a year, whilst hovering on the sidelines of the morning after pill and easy abortion. Even the so-called Lib Dems are angry at the modest tax break for married couples, which is still hovering in the ether. Marriage should be encouraged for the sake of the children it would produce. Men are needed, and needed desperately in this country, not just to produce a child but to stay with it through its formative years and provide the strength and rules that all children need, even if they don't like them or admit to it when they're older. Fatherless children do not function well in society, even the society of today, from whatever background or social strata they hail. Many since the 60s have gone on to do good jobs and have children, but even they often pass on the divorce gene and were not happy in their childhood. So what chance do the thousands now on the streets literally have, with no hope of housing, jobs or even a future in which they could marry and have a family? You see, it's a never-ending spiral of despair, and do you wonder why so many of our young are jaded, disillusioned, unpatriotic, feckless and worse, and some are violent and vicious? Azelle Rodney, who was shot by the police, I don't believe had a father in his background and has produced yet another probable misfit by his unmarried girlfriend. The Bulgar killers had broken homes, and so it goes on. Fathers may have been responsible for a lot of trouble in families through history, but they are a very necessary item for any child. Our government and the establishment don't want marriage to flourish again. They want single parent families and a fragmented society. It's easier to control. They do all they can to discourage young white married couples from having children with little or no financial help, no tax breaks and non-existent mortgages. However, if you're a Muslim at any age, you can acquire a Sharia mortgage, which even if you can't pay, your local council will pay, as it's classed as rent. And there are no shortages of Asian-owned houses for rent by either the local council or privately to homeless young white couples. You see, our system favours the immigrant and not the indigenous, and this is wicked in a country that is in fast losing its identity because of our low birth rate. Why? There are still some youngsters, mainly middle class, who don't want to have children until they can afford them or have a house. Or, alternatively, they've been programmed to work all their lives for what they deserve, and children don't come into that equation. The only answer is a social and governmental shift in policy and propaganda into a not so politically correct world. A world where family, land and patriotism are first, not handing out billions to the third world or immigrants, not being so liberal, in short, acquiring some of the standards that we had in years gone by, and which our Muslim enemies tempt the convert by example. Our education facilities need to stop wanting to be popular and bring back discipline. Marriage should be promoted in the classroom, not homosexuality. Pride in oneself, despite or because of your beginnings, and hope for the future, not despair. What do you think drives our youngsters to drink, drugs and worse? The knowledge that this state, country and people will not look after their own. Ever, and unless something is done and done quickly, we will have Generation X on our hands, if we haven't already. And finally, just see that Tigger now. 5 Indonesian men have been trapped in a tree for days after being chased into its branches by Sumatran tigers who mauled a 6th man to death. 4 of the animals are still surrounding the base of the tree following their initial attack on Thursday, which they launched after the men accidentally killed a tiger cub. Humans and animals are increasingly coming into conflict in Indonesia. The men entered the Mount Lusa National Park in the north of Sumatra Island on Tuesday, searching for rare incense wood, District Police Diki Santani said. The wood is very expensive, but they run a risk looking for it as they have to go to more remote parts of Lusa where there are many tigers and elephants, he said. The men set up traps for deers and antelope for food, but accidentally trapped and killed a tiger cub. The adult tigers reacted by attacking the men. They killed a 28-year-old identified only as David, but the 5 others took refuge up a tree, Sondani said. 4 tigers are still surrounding the men under the tree. This presenter says, man coming into conflict with nature is a politically correct way of saying man getting greedier. And how can you accidentally kill a tiger cub? As for killing deer for food, no. They were after this expensive wood to resell, and I hope these lovely beasts get every one of them and eat them. They've killed one of their children after all. You've been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozar and I wish you all a very good night.